One of the things I love about being a Harley-Davidson motorcycle YouTuber is all the comments that I get. I get comments from all over the world and from all different types of people. One of my favorite, most entertaining types of people I get comments from is that of the lane splitting troll. So it seems like I've gotten tons and tons of comments from the lane splitting trolls, just people that for whatever reason hate lane splitting, and I think a lot of it just stems from not being educated on it and not being educated on the laws of California. So I wanted to make a video, and I've been putting this off for a really long time. I've been wanting to make a video about lane splitting in California and what the laws are in California in regards to lane splitting. But I also wanted to kind of highlight my favorite lane splitting troll comment of all time, and this came on a video that I posted a couple years ago on a test ride review I did on the Slim S 2016. And it seems like when I first started doing the YouTube thing, I got these comments all the time, and I think after kind of responding to people and kind of educating people a little bit via the comment section, I feel like these comments have tapered off a little bit now, but still, I just love them. They're so awesome to read. So this first one comes from Ghetto Blaster HP 600. So pretty awesome name. I'm assuming maybe he has a bike that has 600 horsepower on it or something. So he says, "Ha ha ha, what a legend in his own mind this clown is. A little about what I do. I build Harleys and I own several HDs. A couple of them are OEM, and one of them is a Softail Slim S that's up on the lift getting bastardized / customized. First and foremost, are you effing serious about riding between traffic? I don't care who you are, what you're riding, how many years you've been riding. Riding between cars is the number one never to do. If you're a respectable person who respects motorcycles and other people's safety, not to mention your own, you never ride between cars and split lanes like this fool did. You're supposed to be setting an example when you ride. Only those young, dumb, inexperienced, brain-dead punk kids who ride crotch rockets pull stupid stunts like riding between cars. How old are you? 17, 18 years old? Huh, unreal. Please, whomever is reading this post, do not do what this clown does on this video. This a-hole is the reason why experienced as well as new law-abiding bikers get such a bad name. If I was in my truck or car, and if I ever saw you do that on my roads, I'd pull right in front of you, or I'd open my effing door so fast that you'd be flying over your handlebars so fast. Your effing empty head would be spinning and you'd be ragdolling it down the road to the point that I guarantee you'd never do it again. Well, I take that back. My only complete brain-dead idiots would ride between cars in the first place, especially on a video. So, being that brain-dead, you'd probably do it again even after hitting a car door that got opened at the last minute, or a car changes lane while you were riding between cars. Effing idiot, giving us real bikers a bad name. I get this disgusted because I've had my share of running into selfish assholes like you, and I've knuckled a few of you too. So don't come to Vermont ever. Your type is not welcome, because if I ever see your bullshit antics here on these roads, be rest assured we'll meet one another real fast, and you'll be facing consequences. One of these days, you'll pay dearly for your selfish amateur riding antics. Mark my words. And when you do crash, remember me in this post. Ha ha ha. P.S. law enforcement in California do it because they are a bunch of effing idiots too, just like you. And they get away with it because they're the law. Ha ha ha. The crooked, corrupt law. And they're a bunch of power and control mongers. That's why. Okay, guys, I got a little bit animated there, but this is the best anti-lane splitting troll comment I've ever gotten. Give me a thumbs up in the video if you agree with me. This is pretty good. I can go through all my videos and find a lot of these types of comments, but this guy is pretty epic. He's awesome. So anyways, let me kind of jump into this topic that I've been meaning to tackle for a long time here. So in preparation for this video, I did a little bit of digging, and for the most part I know the laws just because I deal with it every day and I talk about it every day to customers and things like that. But I wanted to be accurate with my information I gave on this video, so I went to a couple key websites to get accurate information to share with you guys. So if you go to the California DMV website, there was several years ago some guidelines that were put out by the state, the CHP, what have you, and they have since been removed. And it says here that the lane splitting general guidelines are no longer available. A petitioner, which I saw on another website that there were a couple of choice words for this petitioner, he basically said that there was no formal rulemaking process for the guidelines, and he raised their objections to having the guidelines up on the website. So I guess the Office of Administrative Law had to take it down. But I'm going to be sharing those guidelines with you guys here pretty soon. But they were basically just there to provide common sense traffic safety information. So here's kind of the law, guys. And really, this sentence here describes the lane splitting laws in California better than anything. It says, California law does not allow or prohibit motorcycles from passing other vehicles proceeding in the same direction within the same lane, a practice often called lane splitting, lane sharing, or filtering. So lane splitting, where most people say that it's legal, really it's just a huge gray area in the state of California where it's neither legal nor illegal according to the law. Now, if I had to pick one or the other, I would say it's definitely legal because so many people do it, and you're never going to get cited for it unless you're breaking some other law like speeding or something like that. But technically, it's not specifically outlined in the law books that it is legal to split lanes, which in any other state, it's 100% illegal. And if I'm wrong there, please correct me in the comment section. But the next place I went to was the California Motorcycle Handbook to try to search for answers on lane splitting. So they did have a quick little section that I found in the table of contents on lane splitting. It says the term lane splitting, also known as lane sharing, filtering, or white lining, refers to the process of a motorcyclist riding between lanes of stopped or slower moving traffic, or moving between lanes to the front of traffic stopped at a traffic light. Then it proceeds just to talk a little bit about the dangers involved with doing that. But again, it never says that it's legal or illegal. It basically gives a definition of what lane splitting is, and then warns you that if someone opens their door, that it could be dangerous. All right, so here are those guidelines that I was mentioning a little bit earlier. These are the California Motorcyclist Safety Program guidelines created in conjunction with the California Highway Patrol. So these are the guidelines that were up on the California DMV's website and were taken down because some loser thought that it was a good idea to petition it. I'm assuming because there's really no actual laws that surround splitting lanes that specifically identify that it is legal, which takes me to my first point on this document. It says lane splitting in a safe and prudent manner is not illegal in the state of California. So notice that they don't say it's allowed or they don't say that it's legal. They just say that it's not illegal. So once again, reiterating my points that I made about it being kind of a gray area in the state of California to split lanes. So I'm going to skim over these points real quick. Hopefully this doesn't get too boring for you guys. But actually, before I do that, I want to point out one other thing. It's a point that I wanted to make. It says motorcyclists who are competent enough riders to lane split should follow these general guidelines if choosing to lane split. I bring this up because I think it's important that it says motorcyclists who are competent enough riders. So the point I want to make here is if you're a new rider, then you don't need to go out and split lanes. It's not advisable. I would definitely recommend against it. You need to be a strong, experienced, advanced rider to split lanes. I've seen a lot of people who have bought bikes and they think they're just entitled to split lanes, and they go out there and they wreck their bike or they get hurt because they don't have enough of a motorcycle riding foundation to get out there and split lanes, because it is an advanced technique. Another thing I've seen is, I've seen riders on YouTube that aren't from California that rent a bike, come out to California, and they get out there and start splitting lanes, and they're doing it wrong. Their technique is bad, and I'm just watching these guys just cringing, just crossing my fingers that they don't hurt themselves. And so my recommendation is have a good, solid foundation on a motorcycle. Know your bike very well. Be a very strong rider before you try to split lanes in California. If you're coming from out of state and you are a strong rider, hopefully you're riding with somebody else who kind of understands splitting lanes, who can ride in front of you, and you should be all right. But again, this lane splitting is for competent riders who can be strong enough and have the skill set to split lanes. So I'm going to kind of go over these guidelines real quick, and I'm just going to go quickly so you guys don't get too bored. But the first one is interesting. It says travel at a speed that is no more than 10 miles an hour faster than other traffic. So the premise behind this guideline is they don't want you zipping by traffic at 40 miles an hour. If someone were to pull out or change lanes in front of you and you're going 40, 50 miles an hour faster than the other traffic, your reaction time is reduced significantly, and it's very, very hard to react quickly enough to avoid an accident. In that case, it says the greater the speed differential, the less time a rider has to identify and react to a hazard. So that one I would agree with. I'm an advocate for that one. There's no need to travel more than 10 miles an hour faster than the other traffic. Do I do it sometimes? Sure, but for the most part, I try not to be more than 10, 15 miles an hour faster than my surrounding traffic. So number 2, it's not advisable to lane split when traffic flow is at 30 miles an hour or faster. Danger increases as overall speed increases. So what we're saying here is if you're going 30 miles an hour or higher, then don't lane split. This one I don't really abide by as much. If I have a big enough distance between the 1 and the 2 lane, I'll split, when traffic is moving at 50, 55, 60, 65 miles an hour. If it's moving at the speed limit or higher, then, I typically won't lane split. But this is definitely a good guideline, especially for people that are just starting off and learn how to lane split. So number 3, it says, typically it is safer to split between the number 1 and 2 lanes than between other lanes. This one I'm in a big time agreement with. In the state of California, other cars are accustomed and tailored to being alert for motorcyclist lane splitters between the 1 and 2 lanes. If you're splitting in other lanes other than the number 1 and 2 lane, then people are going to be caught off guard. Motorists are going to be startled. They're not going to be anticipating you doing that. Again, I saw in somebody's YouTube video, splitting lanes outside the number 1 and 2 lane, and I was just cringing because it's just so bad to split lanes anywhere other than the number 1 and the 2. So, yeah, that one I'd recommend big time. So basically, if you're not aware, the 1 and 2 lanes is the closest to the middle. So the number 1 lane is all the way to the left. The number 2 lane is one from the left. So you're basically splitting between the carpool lane and the first regular lane. assuming the freeway has a carpool lane. So number 4, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. Consider the total environment in which you are splitting, including the width of the lanes, size of surrounding vehicles, as well as roadway, weather, and lighting conditions. So the point I'll make on this, and this is kind of obvious, but I think it's worth saying, it says some lanes are narrower than others, leaving little room to pass safely. If you can't fit, don't split. So all freeways are definitely not created equally. There are freeways that have a lot more room between the number 1 and number 2 lanes, which if you're starting off lane splitting, I'd recommend practicing on these highways. But there's plenty of freeways where there's not a big, like in California, between the carpool lane and the number 2 lane, a lot of times there's like 2 to 4 yellow lines, so there's like a big buffer there where it leaves you plenty of room to go by. But if there isn't that buffer, it's just a single dotted white line, and there's like trucks and buses, a street glide is not going to fit through there. So there's plenty of times where I'm splitting lanes and I run into 2 large trucks and I can't get by. So I think the big takeaway here is, if you're on a motorcycle, just because you're on a motorcycle in California, it does not entitle you to be able to split through traffic, and it does not entitle you to have the right of way. So I'll point out here too, it's not advisable to split near wide trucks. If you can't fit, don't split. Know the limitations of your vehicle. Wide bars, fairing, and bags require more space between vehicles. If you can't fit, don't split. So this is pretty obvious here, but I'm going to say it anyways. If you're on like a narrow sport bike or a narrower Sportster or something like that, then yeah, you're going to be able to split lanes a lot better than like on a big bagger. So anyways, we'll move on from there. Next one, be alert and anticipate possible movements by other users, road users. This is just, again, watching out for people on their phone, watch out for inattentive, distracted drivers. The thing that I like to do is I like to look at people's rear view mirror. A lot of times you can see the reflection of the person in their rear view mirror. The other thing I look at is people's tires in relationship to the line. For whatever reason, you can quickly identify if someone is creeping over into your lane by where their tires are at. And that's something that helps me. If you have other skills or techniques there, then put them in the comments below. I'm sure there's plenty of guys that are good lane splitters that are watching this video. And for the record, guys, I don't consider myself the best lane splitter in California. I've been doing it for a while, and I'm pretty good at it. But there's some guys that commute every single day, splitting lanes for miles and miles, that are awesome lane splitters that are certainly a lot better than I am out there. So here's another little section. It says the 4 R's or Beatitudes of lane splitting, and I'll highlight some of these. You are responsible for your own safety and decisions. So when you go down, when you're splitting lanes, if you go down, it's kind of your decision, guys. I mean, no one's really gonna be responsible for you other than you. So don't put yourself in dangerous positions. If you can't fit, don't split. If you can't fit through the cars, then don't split the lanes. So again, you're not entitled to be able to split just because you're on a motorcycle. Be safe and be smart about it. Be respectful. Sharing the road goes both ways. This one's kind of funny. Don't rely on loud pipes to keep you safe. Loud pipes often startle people and poison the attitude of car drivers towards motorcyclists. So, everybody talks about loud pipes save lives, and I would agree with that to a certain extent in a lot of situations. But I thought this was kind of interesting because I'm a Harley guy, and I've been driving in a car, and I've had a bike wrap their pipes really close to me, and yeah, sometimes you don't know where the guy's coming from, and so if you're being annoying about splitting lanes, sometimes it's not always in your best interest. But that being said, I do think being louder than quiet is safer for the most part, but just don't be obnoxious about it. Here's an interesting one as well. Other vehicles are not required to make space for motorcycles to lane split. So this is actually a big topic of discussion, but I won't dwell on it too much here. In California, you get a lot of people that are just motorcycle friendly people, that I guess this is the best way to put it, and they'll move over for you. I have vehicles move over for me all the time, and it's really, really cool, and I always give them a wave, some type of an acknowledgement that, hey, thank you for moving over. But a lot of times I'll hear motorcyclists complain and say, oh my gosh, this guy's such a jerk, he won't move over. And a lot of times drivers don't see you. Now I've also seen the opposite, where there's cars that are purposefully blocking the lane, and those guys I hate. But yeah, basically they're not required to make space for motorcyclists to split lanes. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Which, by the way, my friend that left the comment down below that I started with at the beginning of this video, yeah, he is definitely outside the law. Let me find a couple things here. Here we go. I like this. So this is a message to my friend that left me that beautiful comment on one of my videos. Lane splitting by motorcyclists is not illegal in California when done in a safe and prudent manner. So for all the cars out there, it's perfectly legal for motorcyclists to go through and split lanes. I think sometimes there's this bitterness that the motorcyclists are going to the front of the line per se, while the cars have to wait in line. Well, guess what, guys? Life isn't fair. If you're on a motorcycle and you take the risk and you got the balls and you're man enough or woman enough to ride a motorcycle, then that's a privilege you get. So deal with it. Motorists should not take it upon themselves to discourage motorcyclists from lane splitting. That's interesting. So if you're in a car, you're not allowed to discourage motorcyclists from lane splitting. That means moving over, trying to block the lane, which leads me to number 3, intentionally blocking or impeding a motorcyclist in a way that could cause harm to the rider is illegal. So if you're one of these jerks, and I've run into them, all the time, who try to block the lane because they're having a bad day and they don't want someone to be able to get by them or pass them, they purposefully will block or impede the lane. That is illegal. I've also had this one happen to me as well. Opening a vehicle door to impede a motorcycle is illegal. There's the code there. Never drive while distracted. So yeah, a couple things that they have there for other vehicle drivers. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I'm going to put a link to this document in the description of the video, guys. I would really encourage you to read this. I really like these guidelines a lot. So here's another graphic that was created when the guidelines were created, and this kind of just illustrates things a little bit better and kind of illustrates the guidelines that I just went over. So you can see there, the splitting is good between the number 1 and the 2 lane. Don't split between the 2 and the 3 lane, which just a second ago in my video, we actually broke that guideline. But again, it's just a guideline. And then it kind of goes over a couple other things. So yeah, I thought this graphic was kind of applicable, and so I thought I'd throw it up. But I appreciate you guys watching as always. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'm sure this video will generate plenty of discussion around this hot topic. It seems like splitting lanes is one of those topics that everybody has a real strong opinion about in the motorcycling community. So I look forward to hearing from you guys. And if you haven't already, please hit that red subscribe button and like this video if I was able to help you out. Thanks again for watching, guys.